And NFL is in full swing after wrapping up week 1. We've got Joe Duffy joining us from, I believe, Georgia. Just a reminder, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube page and hit the bell if you want notifications every time we post a new video. Let's start with the Bucs and the Panthers. The Panthers, if you look at the numbers, it was a 30-27 loss to the Rams, which actually doesn't look that bad on paper, but the Rams, I think they dominated that game. I actually watched that game because my husband's a Panthers fan. And then the Bucs, conversely, a 31-17 loss to the 49ers, where Jameis Winston, his decision-making has been tough as of late. A couple interceptions in that one. First thoughts on this one. What's the line and the total in this one?
Yeah, the Panthers are laying 6.5 and 49.5. And you're right. I was at a sports bar. I did see the end of that Panthers game myself. And yeah, they definitely made it look a lot closer than it actually was. They lost the game fairly soundly there. And, you know, I don't want to totally contradict you there, Chelsea. Jameis Winston hasn't just been making bad decisions lately. He's been making bad decisions for quite a few years. And of course,
well, off the field especially.
Right. And I think that's very relevant, because Bruce Arians was brought in. He decided to come out of retirement because he felt he could work with a guy who's obviously enormously talented and an underachiever. But I think his ego, Arians' ego, that is missing the point, and maybe even Tampa to hire Bruce Arians. I think Jameis clearly needs a life coach. I mean, you know, get Tony Dungy. He doesn't want to coach anymore. Hire him as a life coach, kind of like the Cowboys did a couple years ago with Calvin Hill, or there's any one of a number of guys that I think could really just work with him. And I don't think his problem has anything to do with mechanics or, you know, so much the decision-making on the field, that he just has to decide he wants to focus more on football. So, yes, I do think the fact that his off-the-field problems have been a clear issue means that that Tampa is addressing, I think, the wrong problem. But anyway, when you have two quarterbacks, so Cam Newton, it's interesting. He's had his share of shoulder problems. He's changed his mechanics to try to get easier on his shoulder. And, you know, that's going to be a little bit a work in progress. So now you're talking about your husband. He's a pitcher, is he not?
Correct.
Right. And I'm sure he'll be the first to tell you, if you've got to change your mechanics, there's going to be an adjustment period there, whether you're a pitcher or whether you're a quarterback. So there are some definite question marks about both of these quarterbacks. And I do think that Newton, his rehabilitating and trying to learn, you know, some new mechanics, that's going to be very much a work in progress. Now,
well, Carolina, it seems like the biggest part of their offense is Christian McCaffrey. Holy smokes. If you watch that game, the Panthers are in trouble if McCaffrey gets hurt, because he seems to be 90% of their offense, which usually when you're talking about the most important offensive player on the field, it's usually your quarterback. But McCaffrey, man, I think he's going to have 1,000 yards rushing and receiving this season. I think he's going to be a big factor against the Bucs here. The only thing I worry about is, you said they're getting 7 points?
6.5, but yeah, there is some varied juice. You could get 7 with varying juice, but 6.5 is the predominant
because those
line.
Garbage time touchdowns, man, those scare me. Like you mentioned, sweating at the end of the game when these teams get a lot of points. That's what worries me.
Yeah, and that gets to the bigger picture, handicapping picture, where a lot of my systems are on unders, and I'll do a spoiler alert. My pick is going to be on the under here, but I call it the psychological juice. Unders are so hard to root for, because when you lose a heartbreaking total where half of the points are scored in the fourth quarter, more than half of the points, it rips your heart out. And some people hate to bet unders because it's so painful to lose unders sometimes. It's also just tough to root for a low-scoring game, but that's why most of the best systems, or there's more good systems that favor the under than favor the over, and such is the case here. And, you know, among them, and I know we don't have that much time, maybe we got to move on to other games, but the total points scored would imply that this total is too low. I have a counterintuitive system that says quite the opposite, that if the numbers imply that it should be higher, go with what the odds makers are telling you. The under angle is 14.28, 11.86, and 55. So my pick on this game is to go with the under.
The under in the Bucs and Panthers game.